Hello, this is Brian McHenry, McHenry Software. There's a quick overview of how to change specifications for the 3D simulations that you are doing. If, for example, you get some measurements of a car from a manufacturer, from MVMA specs, or if you actually just happen to measure it, things like the stiffness of the suspensions, the extension in jounce and rebound bumper locations, things like that. They may be slightly different than our approximations. So just to show you how first to determine what the actual approximations are and then how to change them. It's very quick. How we do that, okay, we'll hit pause first. We're going to go back to the grid. For right now, for inserting cards, you want to use the grid. Um, Whereas for simply editing, you can do it in the grid that's available in 3D graphics. You note that we have like cards 4 and 5 are the location of the CG, the track widths, moments of inertia, weights, things like that. And then if you want to know what are the 3D inputs created, you also have to tell the CG height and the overall height. If we go to the input echo, you see that it echoes those input cards, we call them, but they're lines of code, and it tells you what each of those means. And then as you roll down more, you see that it gives you information on the 3D inputs calculated. In addition to unsprung weight, the other things like what is the static margin, what is the sprung weight, what is the moments of inertia in the X, Y, and Z, what were the front wheel locations, the items for, like here's suspension rate, suspension compression stop locations, and things like that, auxiliary roll stiffness. Then tire properties. Now, to make a change to any of these, the first thing you'd have to do is determine, okay, where are they input? And that's very easily done by, if you go to the Help menu, there's a SMAC manual. And in the SMAC manual, you notice we have the introduction, and then you have the inputs for the SMAC, which are the 1 through approximately 10. 81, 83 are for the CG heights. But then down here we have for the actual three dimensionals, which are the 200, 300s, 500s. And 200s are mainly for optional mass, moments of inertia, etc. So there's where you could change the mass or moment of inertia if you know it. It gives you a description, like card 201. Another one would be suspension properties, card 204. So we know what the actual inputs, and you can read the description. It tells you about them. We go ahead and go back to the main program, and in here there's an insert card with helper. And if you notice, you scroll down, and there'll be cards, the 200 or the input. I call them cards. Again, they're lines, I know. But let's say we wanted to put in something about the front suspension. We would click on 204, and then you notice that each field, when you click down here, up on the top here, it says linear suspension, compression, ratio of conserved, how much energy is fed back, where it is, where the bumper are contacted, etc. To remind us what were those values, we can just go to our input echo, and let's just say we found that the suspension stiffness at the front is 106 for vehicle 1 and 116 for vehicle 1 rear. So let's say we wanted to double those, make that 200 and 400. So now all we have to do is we know 204 is the suspension, so it's 104, so we just put in a 200. You do not have to put in any other inputs. If they're zero, they are not changed. Now we need to know what is for the rear suspension. We go insert card with helper. We go down to 204, rear suspension properties, insert that. We'll make this one 400. Now let's say that you had a auxiliary roll stiffness. If we actually look at the inputs, again, looking at the input echo, scroll down, we see that the auxiliary roll stiffness is around 100,000 for the vehicle number 1. Let's say we want to reduce that to 50,000. So we would go insert card with helper. You notice down in the 200s, there's suspension damping inputs, auxiliary stiffness. So let's go ahead with 207. You see that that's the auxiliary roll stiffness at the front. It was 100,000, we make that 50,000. And now we simply then say, and again, you don't have to change, you can change all of them or only change a few. We say run. Now it'll run the three-dimensional simulation. And again, that was on vehicle 1, so if we look, we know that this is vehicle 1, so we'll see if there's any change in how the vehicle 1 behaved. Because it was vehicle 2, which might make more of a difference because it's rolling. Let's go ahead and make some changes to vehicle 2. If we go back to our grid, didn't seem to make that much change. And that's one of the things you will find is that our approximations are pretty good, and the minor changes normally don't. But now if 204 and 205 and 207, a general rule of thumb is 20 cards later, so 224, 225, and 227. So if I go insert card with helper, I look down here and I see that 224 is front suspension for the vehicle 2. 225 is rear suspension. And one other thing you can do is use this manual insert and just put the number in there if you know what number you need. And then 220 for the suspension auxiliary is 227. So this is for vehicle 2. You notice it says vehicle 2 front suspension properties. So let's make them the same as the other vehicle, and we'll see if this makes much of a difference in the how it rolls, since that one's a rolling vehicle. Now again, we could go ahead and get rid of for vehicle 1. We'll put that back to where it was. So you just go up to that card and click delete, or you could set it to 0 and it'll just ignore it. Again, any field in these cards that is set to 0 is set to the default. So now we run. And now we watch and see how much of a difference it makes. See, it has a little different roll and ends up on its roof. So it does make a slight difference on the trajectory of the vehicle. Obviously, with rollovers and with higher events like that, you can find there's a slight difference when you make changes. And now to verify that our changes took, we can go back to the grid, or here on the output files, you can go view output file, and then we click on the run because you're going to have different named runs in there. And if we go down to input echo, we scroll down, and as you recall, we changed for vehicle 2 only 200 and 400 from the 100 and 120, and then we changed the auxiliary to 50,000. You see how that makes a change. And that's basically how you do the quick change for three-dimensional inputs. We'll do some more advanced instructions on this at a later date, or please email us if you have any questions. Thank you.